Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's MBBA Learns webinar. It is 6 tips for lawyers working from home during COVID-19. As we wait for some other folks to join us and get logged on, I'm going to just talk for a little bit. So many of you might know me. I am Paula Edgar, and I'm the immediate past president of the MBBA. I'm a current treasurer, and I'm also an entrepreneur. I have my own business in which I do diversity consulting, EEO investigations, diversity training, professional development training generally, and essentially working with organizations that have people, which for now is at least all of us. And so Okay, sorry, I had a little technical difficulties just now, so apologies. So as I was mentioning, I am the immediate past president and the current treasurer, and I do professional development full time, including diversity training, diversity consulting, and I encourage you to connect with me using all of the things that are currently on your screen. You can email me, connect with me on Twitter, my favorite place to live, as well as on LinkedIn. And so let's get into this. So we are in unprecedented times. And these unprecedented times require us to shift and navigate in unprecedented ways. And so first, I want to just send a little shout out to you all to we're here and we are managing, and that's really all we can do at this time. And so for those of you who are managing, and if you got on this webinar, that means at least you can manage one thing. Thank you. And thank you for connecting with us at these difficult times. The Metropolitan Black Bar Association endeavors to be supportive to all of our members as much as we can in any way that we can. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about that later. So today, although we're using this platform, this webinar platform, I'm going to ask for you to provide me with some live feedback, and we'll be doing it via a website called Menti.com. And so the code is also going to be put into the chat function. And but if you visit this website right now, so go to Menti.com, you can go on any device, or your phone, your tablet, your laptop, another window. You'll be able to log on, and then you'll see today's event on there. And then I'll be asking you a few questions in just a moment. Basically, while this is a training, a webinar, I do want this to be as interactive as possible given the limitations that we do have with the platform. So if you can, please do provide feedback using the Menti tool. I'd like to hear the things you want to hear about. I obviously have an outline of what I'm going to cover, but in order for this to be as responsive as you need it to be, I would like to be able to know what things you are struggling with or what tips that you might have. And so I encourage you to utilize our chat function as much as you can, and then also use the Menti.com. So once you're on there, let's talk. So working from home. Even if before this you had the opportunity to work from home, this is very different than the work from home you did before. So I decided that I was going to write about working from home during COVID-19 using the acronym Corona. So I apologize in advance, but I love branding. This still is this. So Corona stands for communication, owning your space, remember you are working, only do the task at hand, notify stakeholders, and anticipate distractions. And today's webinar is supposed to be for a mostly lawyer audience. And so I want to see who is on and what practice areas you're in. And so we're going to go to our first Menti question. Allow me to switch the screen. So you'll see Menti right here. And you can answer the first question, which is what best describes your practice? And so I'll just wait a moment for you all to do that. And again, you're going to go to menti.com. You're going to use the code 626942. And for those of you non-attorneys and others who are on the line, honor you and thank you for joining us. Again, I'll just give it a moment. I know folks are still joining. We're starting early, or we're starting on time. And it's Menti, MENTI.com. And the code is 626942. Okay. We got a few votes in. I'm encouraging you, as I say every time I do this webinar, this is not the time for us not to be voting, especially this year. so so please do use the tool. Like, you know, it's important for us to get, for me to get the feedback. I'm also an executive coach, and some of the things that I do is really support individuals as well as organizations with some of the soft skills, with some of the things that are the non sort of concrete things that can help you to progress and elevate within your organization. And so the more I know about what your challenges are, the better I can serve you. So we have, let's just see here, mostly government folks, and then a few folks in private practice, law school administrator, and then the ominous always other. So thank you for all of you who have joined. We've got 21 folks who are on the line. I know that oftentimes people will do webinars and will multitask. We're going to talk about multitasking generally in a little bit, but for this immediate part, this part right here, when I'm asking for some of your feedback, I do want you to pay attention. Do visit menti.com on the web and put in your feedback. So again, I'm going to shift to talking about Corona and this acronym. Why did I do this? What I was understanding was that the folks who had the opportunity to work from home before, even having that opportunity, were experiencing a lot of challenges. Were saying to me, Paula, this is not the same as when I've worked at home before. And so what should I be doing? And some of the things I'm going to say is probably common sense, but oftentimes in times of unrest and confusion and crisis, some of the common sense things seem to fly out first. And so we want to just remind ourselves to snap back to best practices so that we can be our best selves, knowing that our best selves might be a little challenge right now while we're in this challenge of Corona. So I'm going to go to the next question on Menti, which is this. In 3 words or phrases, how do you feel about working from home right now? So again, I'll remind you that the Menti tool is anonymous, so don't have to worry about us being able to figure out who you are unless you say it's me. Don't do that though. And so let me know in 3 words or phrases, how do you feel about working from home right now? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Is it challenging? Just give me some feedback about how you feel. Okay, we got some folks coming through. Okay. So keep on submitting. Again, if you're just joining us, we are using an online tool called Menti, menti.com. And if you look at the chat function, the information is there. The code you'll use is 626942. So the words that come up more, that are repeated more, are bigger. So let's see, we have stressed, comfortable, challenging, boundaries, overwhelmed, helpful, generally positive, uncertain, inconsistent expectations, hard to focus, safe and grateful, challenge and adjustment, not too bad, depressed, inconsistent, afraid, hopeful, limited in nonverbal communication, never ending. So, you know, there's a lot. And you guys can keep on sort of submitting how you're feeling right now. The reason I start with this is because I've seen so many articles which are like, you know, how to be more productive when you're working from home during Corona, how to do these things. And we have to remember that at the baseline minimum of this, we are all human beings, and a lot of human beings are suffering right now. Even if you yourself have not been personally affected by COVID-19, you may know folks, you may have family members, you may have friends, you definitely have coworkers. Just in the way and the amount and this is of people who've been affected by this, it's really hard to not be. And even if none of those things are affecting you, you definitely are being affected by the news and the constant flow of bad news or challenging news. And for our humanity's sake, we need to realize that that can challenge our productivity, period. And this is not the same as what it was before when you had the opportunity to work from home. And so for the person who said overwhelmed, depressed, and challenging, you know, my empathy is an overdrive to all of you, because that's exactly right. That's none of these answers are wrong. All of these are right. And it might change if I asked you in 10 minutes. So this is where I really want you to utilize me as a resource. I want you to tell me, so this is different than the last slide, which was a word cloud. This is in short phrases and short sentences, and you can do as many as you'd like. What are the challenges you're having right now? So this could be, hard to concentrate, having to deal with my kids, or bosses micromanaging. Whatever it is, this is where I'd like you to provide me with some more feedback. So really think about why did you jump on this call? What did you want to know? What are you looking for more support and feedback with? And go ahead and submit them. And I'll review, and then we'll use the outline that we have, but I'm going to pick up on the things that you are asking and highlighting, and making sure that I'm responsive to them. And so use me. I had someone who reached out to me to ask me the other day about being concerned about being evaluated because they're not able to have interaction with their partner, and meaning partner in the law firm sense. And so yes, keep going. So difficulty keeping a schedule and self-managing. We're going to talk about that. Hard to focus, not motivated, lazy. Let's keep going. I'm going to respond to all of these. This is your time. If you're thinking, gosh, I don't have a coach, I'm going to use Paula in this way. This is it. And I'm very happy to be responsive to you and the challenges that you're having. We have to be supportive of each other. This is the third webinar that I've done on working from home. And what I love about it is less training and more group coaching. It's more, let me help you figure out some strategies on how to deal with the immense challenges that exist these days. Okay, so what do we have? I'm challenged because I strive in its structure. My workplace has no structure or plan for how we work at home. Stressed over expectations, poor technology at home, illness of my partner. Again, my heart goes out to those of you who are dealing with folks who are ill at this time. This is tough. Micromanaging boss. Yes, we will address that. Because I'm hearing that a lot. A few things. I feel fatigued and unmotivated. Additionally, bosses have become micromanagers and trying to come off as saviors rather than problem solvers. Adjusting to find tools to interrupt bias. Yes, we'll get into that in a moment. Do not feel creative. With both court days adjourned, definitely I'm having trouble prioritizing tasks. My productivity is further hampered by not having access to all relevant materials, okay? Creating boundaries, guilt for not immediately responding to emails, distractions, finding ways to maintain professional relationships from home. Okay. Mismanaged expectations of what I can accomplish at home. Too many emails and duplicative emails. Unmotivated to send what seems to be futile emails. I'm an extrovert, so working 8 to 10 10 hours daily behind a computer in silence is brutal. Sometimes I feel hopeful, sometimes I feel anxious. My workflow is not steady. There's an expectation that I make billables, but the work isn't there. The firm wants it to be business as usual, overwhelmed by the number of my Zoom meetings. Okay, so yes, all of that is what we're dealing with. And the added expectations that come from us as being attorneys, people look at us as problem solvers because we tend to be the problem solvers. And so let's get into this. Okay, so working from home. So I like this graphic because I have been making myself happy by looking at memes. And so I like this one. 9 o'clock, I'm all ready to go. 9:12, I'm sleeping with a pencil in my nose. So let's get into this. Communication. And actually, before I get into this, I want to respond to one thing, the micromanaging piece. People who are micromanagers are not sure of their ability to okay, for some reason I was muted. I think I'm back on. Okay, good, I'm back on. So micromanagers are folks who are not sure of their ability to lead. They're not sure of their ability to manage completely and properly. And so in times of stress, what they do is they lean in and they want to do more. So the thought that they have is, okay, if I can't see you, if I can't walk past you in your desk, if I can't check in on you in the way that I have before, I have to call you, or I have to check every day on what you're doing and I want full details. It's the exact wrong thing to do. The problem is if you hire somebody who you don't trust, you shouldn't have hired them in the first place, right? And so managers, good managers, trust the people who they're working with. They check in, and we'll talk about that. But the micromanaging piece is something a lot of people I've been hearing are dealing with. So we will get into that in terms of discussion. Let's get into communication. So as much as I wish, because I'm also an extrovert, so the person who said they were an extrovert, I would love if I could just communicate on my own, but I can't. In order to effectively communicate, I have to know that other people are receiving my message. And so best practice number one is to make sure you're maintaining contact. And that's not just with your boss, but it's your colleagues, your clients, your managers, your professors, whomever it is that you're interacting with as a stakeholder. You need to maintain contact with them. And the best practice for how to do that varies depending on the type of work, who you are, what you need, etc. But don't disconnect. I did a session recently for managers who were concerned about their folks disconnecting, and their concern was on the mental health, and they should be concerned. These are days when we don't know, we can't see somebody to know they're okay. We don't know what they're going through, and there's some ways that we can kind of figure that out. One of those is to make sure you have regularly scheduled meetings with managers. When I did the session the other day, I asked, well, do you have regular meetings with the folks who report to you? And most of the people said no. And so just as an FYI, best practice is to always have a regular meeting with the people who you're working with. If you don't have that and you're not a manager or a leader, you can recommend that. You can suggest that. It doesn't have to be an hour long. It could be 10 minutes, but you want to have the opportunity to connect, let them know what you need, what you've been working on, and that you're okay, and vice versa. We are not trying to navigate as per usual. It is navigating in a crisis. If we forget that we are in crisis mode, we have expectations that people are going to be just productive, and that's unreal. That can't happen. We expect for ourselves to be super duper productive, which you might be a person who, when you're stressed, you engage and are able to work more. But what I'm hearing from the majority of folks that I am interacting with is that they're not. And they're struggling with feeling lazy, like somebody mentioned on the Menti, and feeling unmotivated and being sleepy. And what we do as human beings is we do fight or we do flight. Okay, and guess what? If we are in quarantine, we can't do either one of those things. We can't fight anybody except for, I guess, maybe our spouses and the people who live with us. And we can't fly, we can't go anywhere. And so what we do, and some of us, I should say, do is shut down. And that shutdown might mean sleeping or not being as productive. And that is okay. You just have to be able to voice what you need and what you're going through and utilize the resources that are available to you. So phone calls and video calls. So I had the opportunity to say, I don't have to be on camera, you don't have to see me, except that I understand that you will engage differently with me when you see my face and my eyes and my smile than if you didn't, if you only heard me. As human beings, what we do is we relate to eyes and teeth and the human being. It's like even the hands. And so if we don't get to see those, it's a little more challenging. So I saw this online, and I'm happy to share it with anybody who would like to see it, but it is conference call bingo. So I'm sure, just because it's really one of the only opportunities for us to connect with each other, that you have been on so many conference calls, on so many Zooms or WebEx or whatever tool you're using. And so I like this because seriously, I'm hearing all the time, can everybody go on mute? It's too loud, right? Or I can't see your screen, or whatever the issue is. And so this just made me laugh, and so I figured I'd share it with you. Email. One of the people who submitted or responded to the Menti mentioned there's a lot of emails, and I'm going to talk to you about best practice for email right now. Number one, if you're like me, when it's a work email, I like to say, hey, it's Paula, I need the report, 3 o'clock, thanks. And then I go back and I say, hey, hope that you're doing well at the beginning of it, because my need in being responsive is to just get the thing out. But particularly these days, we have to remember that you don't know how the person on the other end of the email is going to receive it, what they're going through, what mood they're in, what has happened in their life. And so check in with the human piece of all of this first to say, I hope you're well. I hope everyone is healthy. Just so that folks will know, not just think, but know that you are prioritizing their humanity first and being empathetic with what they might be going through in these rough times. We've never had a time when the whole world was at home. And so we have to be reminded of that. we are getting a ton of emails, a lot of emails. And just generally, when you are sending emails, oftentimes, and particularly lawyers, we love to do this when we're like, okay, bullet points, A through F, please respond to these things, these things, these things. I'm recommending to you in this new time that we're in, and just generally afterwards too, don't send an email that requires more than 3 bullet points to respond to. So you would say, hey, John, I'm following up with you on A, B, and C. Please let me know, blah, 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 by whatever time. When you do, 6 or more things or 3 or more things, oftentimes what will happen is the person will respond to the 2 or 3 that are easiest and then not respond or wait till later to respond to the other things. And so prioritize what you need and ask for those things in terms of the 3 and maybe 4 bullet points. And if you're getting frustrated because folks are not responding to all of the things you need, then you know that you are not communicating the way that you need to in order to get what you need, right? So you can say, hey, notice that you didn't respond to points 3 and 4. I need those as well. Or be proactive, which is better, and to say, I only need these things. Can you let me know by this time what your response is to XYZ thing? Okay. This is not the time for us to practice our strunk and white, practice our, we're writing tomes and long briefs. And again, you might have to send a long brief for review. That's very different than just something you're looking for a response from. Even from opposing counsel, try to keep things concise, try to use headings that are responsive to what they might need and be able to respond to easier. Say when you need it, like, please read, response requested by X time. Think about what you need and what is frustrating for you on the flip side, and try to reverse engineer it, okay? Social media, and for those of you who connect with me, you know that I love social media. However, it can be overwhelming, and these days it's super overwhelming because of some of the bad news and constant barrage of news that is there. However, the best thing I love about it is that it can enable us to kind of cut through some of the noise when it comes to communicating. So that real-time contact, right? If you want to connect with me and I have 10 emails and you just send me a WhatsApp or group me message, then I might respond to that faster than I would the emails because I have to go through all the rest of them, right? And so this can be a good way of staying in contact with your colleagues. And, especially if you're navigating this quarantine alone, to make sure that folks, just say hello. Good morning, right? It doesn't have to be all work. It can be just, I'm wanting to connect with folks, and we should be doing that. That combats that, the effects of social isolation. Even if you are not navigating this alone, if you have family members, sometimes you just want to talk to other people. It's why, like I said, I wanted you to see my face. I don't want you to feel like you're alone. We're right now socially distancing, seeing each other in the same room. So again, you can use Slack, WhatsApp, GroupMe. There's a ton of these that you can utilize. And I know that a lot of the lawyer groups I'm affiliated with are using some of these and also others. I got an instant message on LinkedIn the other day, which kind of shook me up, but that's a whole nother story. But you can do that, and it can be really helpful to connect with people, okay? So own your own space. So I want to know, and I'm going to ask a question in a moment, but I wanted to show you this graphic because I love it. One of the issues with video conferencing these days is that you have to actually be on video, right? So today my son said to me, "Are we going someplace?" Like all excited because obviously we haven't gone anywhere because I'm dressed up. But let's just let me go to Menti, and I want to ask you a question about this, and I'll come back to see some of the things you responded to that I didn't get to. So do you have a dedicated workspace at home? So go ahead and answer this question for me. And for those of you who joined after I told you the code, it's Menti, MENTI.com, 626942 is the code, and it's also in the audience chat. Okay. All right, keep responding. Let's see what you got. Okay, so the majority of you have a space at home. I'll just wait for a few more responses. All right, for those of you who are multitasking, there's a vote up. All right, so I'm going to go back to the other screen because I just want to see if there's anything that I missed in terms of your feedback here. Creating boundaries, emails, anxiety. Let's see. Interruptions. Okay, so good. And I'll leave this up for now and then I'll skip back to it. So if you want to add anything else, you can. So let's get back to the PowerPoint. So there's many of you who would not want to invite your coworkers to your home, period, right? And so when you are mandated to do video calls, folks can see. So you can see, like you can see a picture of my daughter up here. You can see my curtain, although I have the curtain only up because I wanted the screen to not have sun coming through. But you can see, and we were using Zoom, I would show you how to change your background, but just know that you do have the opportunity if you're using Zoom to change your background, or one of the things that I've been encouraging some of my coaching clients to do is to confirm, to say to the person who's organizing, is this video a mandate, right? Do I need to be on video? If you are over videoed, if you are like, I'm over this, don't. But let's talk about organizing your workspace. We are at home, and for the most part, your home should be and feel comfortable, because that's what home is supposed to be. I'm not making any assumptions, because I know for some people, the home space is not ideal. But if you are at home and comfortable, it can be very challenging to be productive, right? So if you can create a dedicated workspace, you should. You should. So I'm at my kitchen table, but this is my dedicated workspace. This is where I work. So I've been working from home for over 7 years. This is where I work. So this is my main place. I've had folks who were working from kitchen counters because they wanted to stand, who were in their cabinets because it was the only place to put things. Find a space that's hopefully not too comfortable. I do not recommend your bed, because again, your bed is it's just too easy to fall asleep. It's just too easy to want to not work. And when you sit in the workspace, you feel as if you're supposed to be working. The other thing, as I was mentioning, is when you're having video calls, it makes it look more professional if you are on the actual screen on video. And for the person who was talking about mitigating bias, one of the places in which bias is really triggered is folks making assumptions and judging us, people, by the surroundings that they see in our videos, also how you look, right? And so I know we haven't gotten to the dressing part yet, so we'll talk about it in a minute, but if you think about just how bias works generally, it triggers an automatic, right? And so if I automatically feel as if you don't have a desk, so that must mean something about your insert X here, automatically just think about how that will snowball, or potentially snowball, from not just coworkers, but maybe potentially clients and their perception of you and your work, et cetera. Vendors that you might have to interact with. So the more you can make it look professional, it'll just be better for you. It'll make you feel like you want to work more and lessen the potential biases that might be triggered. So my next question for you is, do you get dressed? Come over here. Do you get dressed for work when you work from home? Go ahead and answer the question now. Again, we're on Menti 626942. Yes. There are a lot of guesses. Okay. All right. So the majority of folks are saying yes. Some of them only when I have a video call, and in my pajama crew. I saw a meme the other day that said, I am switching from my day pajamas to my night pajamas, which I thought was hilarious. But as attorneys or legal professionals, it is imperative for us to dress the part. Now, my recommendation is not that you are going to be dressed to the nines. You don't have to wear a suit. I mean, again, knowing the culture of your organization, I should say, you may not have to wear a suit. But if, for example, you're doing a client conference and you feel like you should, then, use your best efforts to do what you need to do. But I saw this headline 2 days ago, and I thought, well, look here. A judge said to lawyers, please get out of bed and put on a shirt for Zoom court hearings. So who are these people who are doing shirtless Zoom hearings? I laugh because it's a lot. I had a client tell me one time that they had gotten rid of somebody who they were working with because the person continued to do video calls from their bed, and it made them uncomfortable. So we make assumptions about people based on how they present, right? And so I could have absolutely done this webinar in my pajamas. Absolutely. I'm willing and capable. But I know that you are looking at me as an expert, and my expertise is amplified when I look a certain way. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm saying that you have to sort of have your hair a certain way or wear a certain outfit. I think you need to understand what is happening within your organization and what the expectations are. But I'll tell you this, I'm hearing a lot of folks who are talking about their discomfort, particularly African American women, with obviously we don't have access to hair salons or nail salons or any other things that we utilize in order to keep ourselves maintained in the way that we want aesthetically. And so the concern is, hey, am I going to do this conference call, this video call with my, with twist in my hair or with a head wrap on? And the answer is, it depends. It depends on your organization. It depends on who you're interacting with. And you should be thinking about that. I'm a big believer in bringing your authentic self to any space that you're in. But you also have to realize that these are unprecedented times, and that we have not been in times, as far as I can remember, in which we didn't have access to the services that we needed. My nails are almost going to give out, and thankfully, my hair kind of just does its own thing because I have it in braids and extensions, but soon that's not going to be the case. And so I'm going to have to figure out what I have to do, because people will make judgments and assumptions about you based on how you look. And that sucks, but we do have to think about this. So it may be that you do wear a head wrap or a scarf, but maybe it's one that's less, colorful than you might want to wear. I don't know. For yourself, you have to think about what makes the best sense and what you can and should be doing for your work, for your clients, for the people who you're interacting with. Okay. So again, the dressing the part can help you to shift to work mode. So I did an anonymous poll the other day on my Instagram, and someone said, I don't brush my teeth until the end of the day. I don't shower until the end of the day. And I thought to myself, okay, at a baseline minimum, we have to keep up the things that keep us feeling alive and engaged. And one of those things is showering and brushing our teeth. And I, my concern, and I didn't share this with with my Instagram audience, because I just thought I didn't want to further sort of make them feel sad, but that might be a sign of depression, right? And as I'm saying all these things, I want to remind you that in most of your workplaces, and hopefully even if you're a solo, you have access to resources that will enable you to talk to someone, whether it is, you're feeling depressed, you're drinking too much. I'm thinking of the lawyer audience who I usually connect with. Ask for help if you need it, right? There's lawyer assistance programming. If you're in New York City, where I think most of you might be, we have mental health resources that have been given out by the state. There's a lot. But if you're finding yourself going days and days without doing the routine care things that you need to do, one of the ways you can help get yourself back into that mode is to just commit to start doing some of those things. Remember, you are working, okay? So this, in the feedback that you gave, a lot of people said, look, I feel lazy, I can't get anything done. So we're gonna start thinking about how you can get yourself together to kind of get things done. So many of you probably have a to-do list. We love to-do lists, but if your to-do list is pages and pages long, if it's over 10 things long, it's not gonna be helpful. Instead, it's going to make you feel worse. So I recommend the night before. So each night before you shut down work for the day, you create a to-do list of what you want to do the next day. And that to-do list should only have at maximum 5 things on there. Okay. If any of you know of the eat the frog theory, one of those things should be a big thing, like something that you don't want to do, something that is a bit larger. You should do that first. The theory is that you eat the fog, like something that you don't want to do, and then the other items that you have to do in your to-do list flow easier. So this is not me saying you can only do 5 things a day. What I'm saying is, in these times when it's challenging to kind of feel productive and get things done, don't further overwhelm yourself and give yourself something to feel bad about. Put 3 to 5 things on there, and those are things that you usually are able to get done. The one that's to eat the frog is the one that you need to get done. So that might be something that's deadline based that you have to do, maybe a first draft, whatever it is, you're going to try to get that done, but don't overwhelm yourself. As a coach, I tell folks, if you say, I'm gonna, do these 10,000 things this year, and then you only get to do one, you're setting yourself up to emotionally feel as if you have failed. And what we want is momentum and feeling as if we have succeeded, because all we need these days is good news, right? We have enough bad news. So my recommendation is, as much as you can, follow your typical work schedule. So if you can wake up in the time that you woke up, now we don't have to commute. That's one benefit, right, of this. Eat breakfast, make sure you're trying to eat as healthy as you can. And I know I'm talking about all this without speaking about other things. We're going to get to distractions last. But if you can follow this as much as possible, it can be helpful to make you still feel as if you are working. I want you to remember to sort of keep your gadgets charged and the things that you need to get done. I had a friend of mine who does data privacy work, another attorney, say to me that what she would do is to change all of the passwords that, or she recommended to change all the passwords, because so many folks, because everybody's home, they may not have the same kind of security on their Wi-Fi that they have had at work, right? And so making sure you have, your password is not password. It's not like your birthday 123. Stepping it up, because as attorneys, we have privacy concerns, obviously, and we do know that hackers are stepping up their efforts to gain access to information, in particular if you're dealing with sensitive client information or your own sensitive information. You want to think about this. So being ready, making sure your Wi-Fi is up, your computers are up. I had a lot of people say to me that they're letting their gadgets die even when they're home because they're not prioritizing charging them. So this is just a reminder that you do have to kind of keep yourself on the go. So only do the task at hand. So if you have been like tuned out and multitasking this whole time, this is where I want you to focus. You need to focus here, because this is going to be really important. So I have a question for you first before we get to what I'm going to say about to get the task at hand. I want to ask you a question on Menti. I don't want to make assumptions about you. So do you feel as if you are more or less productive at this time? So the question has shifted on Menti. You can answer it now. Again, we're using code 626942. And I want to see what you're thinking about this. Okay. Yeah. So your responses are, so some folks are, yes, I guess yes, meaning again, more productive. I probably should have done that differently. But anyway, and then it varies. And of course it's going to vary, because it varies depending on what's happening. I read a headline before this that said something about 2022. And I was like, I can't even think about that right now, or I won't be able to do this because I need to focus. So listen, let's get into productivity. Okay. There are studies that show working from home can be really helpful for productivity of people. But those studies were done when we were not in a pandemic. I'll repeat, those studies were done when we were not in a pandemic. And so the assumption that we would even be the same equal amount of the productivity we had before is a wrong one. We are in unprecedented times. We can't think that we're going to be the same way we were before. We can't. So what I want you to do is to really reflect on when you are the most productive. So for all of us, it's different. For me, if I get up early in the morning, before my kids are up, I can, break out an article, I can get things done, I can fax, oh my God, fax, because I actually have to send a fax, but that's a whole nother story. I can get a lot of things done that I can't do in the middle of the day because I'm being responsive to things. So knowing when you're more productive is helpful. This doesn't mean that you're going to be able to set your work time, right? Because you have to be on, for most of you, for a certain amount of time, right? That 9 to 5, that 10 to 6, whatever it is when you're expected to be on. And if you're an associate or partner or whatever, that may be different these days, right? And for someone said, I'm having a hard time switching off from work. That's not okay. We have to give ourselves the opportunity to say, I am working now, I'm not working now, to the extent that we can. But knowing when you're most productive can help you to be responsive to what your body's needs are and when you might be able to better get things done. That doesn't need somebody else to do it. So if you have a brief to write, that will be the time you're trying to do that. But we all think we can multitask. And I'm telling you right now, it is not efficient for us to multitask. We think, oh, I can do this and this. What you do is you end up doing the things not as good. And so my recommendation is my favorite thing, and it's something called the Pomodoro technique. This is the way that I am able to get things done, and I have been using it and leaning even more on it now these days, because productivity for me has been challenging just because of the constant flow and family issues and all this other thing. So let's talk about this. So this is, you take 20 minutes to work on one task only. So I'm going to draft this email. I'm going to write this brief. I'm going to, create my client profile, whatever it is. I'm only going to do this one thing. You're turning off your phone, the only thing that makes noise on your phone. You are not opening multiple windows on your computer. You are only doing one thing. The good thing about this time frame is that usually the world is not going to end in 20 minutes, right? Someone's not going to think you're not being responsive if you don't respond in 20 minutes. It's enough time that you can get something done and not feel afraid about what the ramifications are of you not responding for that time frame. And it can help you get things done, right? And so it's 20 minutes on that one task, and then you take a 10-minute break. So this would be when you are going to check your email or go to the restroom or grab a snack, or whatever else you might need to do. And then should the world be fine and you can move on, you do it again. And you can either, if you're like me and I have ADHD, so I like to do a lot of different things rather than the same task, you move to a new task, or you can move to the same task and then you repeat. This has been the way that I have gotten things done now for almost 10 years really effectively. So especially when it's hard for me to sort of think, oh gosh, I need to get these things done. I'm feeling sad today because we're locked in this, in our house, and I feel sad about the world. Okay, I can commit to myself 20 minutes to get this thing done. I can do this PowerPoint in 20 minutes. It's short enough of a time, but long enough to get stuff done. And so I'm encouraging, if you take nothing else away from this can be helpful to you. You can commit to 20 minutes for yourself to get something done, and I'm encouraging you to do so, okay? So the next thing is notify stakeholders. So for you, your stakeholders, depending on the practice area you have where you're doing, could be a lot of people. It could be your boss, your manager, your partner. It could be your clients. It could be the court. It could be a myriad of folks. But what you want to do is manage up. So if you think about this respective stakeholder that might be worrying you the most. So if it's your manager or your boss, the person who is causing you the most grief, how can you, knowing who they are, knowing what they need generally, how can you be responsive to that proactively, right? So if you know that you usually have a report to them every Tuesday, and that every Monday before the pandemic was going on, they would say, what's the status of this report? So Sunday night, when you're thinking about your to-do list, the first thing you're going to do is on Monday morning is to draft an update so that you can affirmatively give them information versus be hit by the frustration, annoyance, etc., of them reaching out to you. Because think about it, you know you owe somebody something and you haven't gotten it done, and you're like, oh God, apprehensive of them sending it, and then you get it. It kind of derails you. And so my thought is being affirmative to check in and say, hey, I know we have our updated, our weekly call this week. Here is the agenda that I'd like to go over. Let me know if there's anything you'd like to add, right? Like, don't ever do meetings without an agenda. You should be saying, these are the things I want to talk about. Keeps you on point, keeps them on point, allows them to provide you feedback, right? And I'm saying end of day, but this could be 3 times a week. If you have a team that you're working with, if you're in the middle of a deal or a litigation or whatever it is, or you have a client that's really kind of needy, you can say, hey, I filed this thing for you today. I'm gonna check back in 2 days about the status. It can help them to feel heard and to feel as if you are being responsive to them without navigating or triggering that annoying thing for you. So it's a recommendation that I have for doing that. I love the making sure you're checking in so that they can feel heard, and then you can also feel less frustrated. So if I could have done this reverse order, I would have flipped this and said anticipate distractions first. But what I want to do is to pull up the next Menti question so you can answer this while before I get to the next thing. So we're going to talk about distractions. So tell me what kind of distractions you're dealing with right now, working from home. So this could be kids, pets, it could be, neighbor who plays the drums, which I have one. Tell me what distractions you have. So again, we're responding here on Menti. We're using the code 626942. Okay, so we got family, random requests from the boss. What else? Keep going. Phone. Oh yeah, so while you guys are submitting this, let's talk about this. There is not a requirement, unless you have a specific directive, and that, that might be something we can take offline. There's not a requirement for you to have to answer the phone when it rings, okay? Unless, of course, that's an expectation. You might have a partner who you work with who expects that phone to be picked up. And even then, you could have gone to the restroom, right? There's other things that you could have done in not answering. But at least in the last 2 weeks, people have been like, I just feel like I have to answer my phone. I'm like, I mean, even if you were at work in your office, you don't have to answer the phone. You might be doing something else, right? And so it's important to not let some of the things, your what's the word? Your inner expectations, and maybe sometimes that what's the word? It's a term. That sort of self-doubt that you may have of what people are thinking, how they're going to respond to this. If you don't get in the way of you actually being responsive and productive, like again, people tend to be more empathetic these days. So phones, multiple stakeholder demands, Netflix, noisy neighbors, side hustle, social media, yes. Constant emails, my husband, yes, trust me. The fridge, phones, YouTube, COVID briefings, silence, yes. Neighbors and multiple emails, other people in the home with nothing to do but stress me out. Get that one. News updates, always hungry, Netflix and wine. Random requests for colleagues and family. All right, so let's talk about some of these. So random requests from boss. Okay, so how you manage, and again, this is the same thing with the managing up. How you manage random requests from bosses, you flip it back. Thank you, Jim, or Jenny, whoever sent the request. Can you just let me know, give me some feedback about where this should go in my priority list, because I'm working on XYZ thing, and I want to know how this should fit in. Should this go in the front of that? And then if that's the case, then you now know. But delegation is this. A good boss will say, hey, I would like this. This is a task. I want this task done. I would like a standard. I want it to be 12-point font, 1-inch margins in red ink, right? Tell you how, and then when they want it and how they want to be communicated about it. That's the perfect way. That way you know what to do, you know the expectations, but most people don't do that. And so if you're going to retrofit it, you then ask the questions you need to know. Hey, I got this task from you. How do you want it? When do you want it by? Right? So that you are clear about it. Because oftentimes we think I got to do all 10 of these things, when in fact what their expectation was that you put it behind the things you have to get done, or that you put it in front, and you should know that. But if you ask, then they can be clear, and so can you, and it will lessen the confusion and your frustration. Okay. So we're going to talk about snacks in a minute. And for silence, one of the things that I have been doing with silence is I've been playing, and again, when I have the opportunity for silence, I've been playing podcasts in the background, because I like the noise of other people kind of talking, even when they're not in the room. And it helps me as an extrovert to feel like other people are there. So that might be helpful. I have another slide up on the screen so that you can respond to it in the meantime, because I know that we are getting to time, because I do want to know what things are making you happy these days, what good things are in this. But let's talk about the distractions. So some of you might have remembered a few years ago when this happened, and this man was doing this, briefing. It was like work from home, and both his kids came in and his wife came to kind of snatch them up. What we can do, what we can rely on with COVID-19 is that there are going to be distractions. And you all highlighted many of them. That it's social media, that is kids. One thing I want to say to you, many folks have been characterizing what they're doing is homeschooling. You are not homeschooling. You're not, unless you're an actual educator. What you're doing is trying to help your kid navigate a crisis, right, with the schoolwork that they have been tasked. But that does not mean that you are an educator. That means that you are just a person who is a parent who's trying to do so. Depending on who else is in your home, you might have roommates who are distracting. You might have a spouse who also has calls at the same time as you, or You might have a pet who's wondering why you were always home, or who's more needy. There's a ton of distractions. I find that I'm hearing sirens a lot louder than I used to, and it triggers my anxiety because generally when there's a siren, there's an emergency. And I'm in New York City, and obviously with some of the things that you're hearing about us being at the epicenter of this, that challenges, it makes me frustrated. And then there's social media. As much as I love it, between Tiger King, which I love, and the latest update from the president or the mayor or the governor, it is distracting. And so it's why I like to use that Pomodoro method so much, because it helps me to stay streamlined and focused in the times when I can. But to the extent that you can, if there are people in the home that are distracting, try to let them know, hey, like I did today, I have a webinar, so from 1 to 2 o'clock, you are not allowed to come down here unless there is an emergency. Now, that is assuming that you have children or people in the home who will listen to you. I know that some of you do not, but give them the opportunity to at least be heard, so that you can say, hey, this is what I need. Let me know if you can't do that, and then you can figure this out. If you have a door between you and them, that's even better. You can put a note that says, do not disturb. And on every conference or video call, say, hey, I might be interrupted by any myriad of things in this home at this time. I know that you all are dealing with the same thing, because all of us are home at this time. Let them know. You want to kick in that empathy muscle immediately and say, hey, this is not business as usual. I know we have to do this closing, but my kid might need his diaper change. There's nothing that you can do about that. We're all human beings, okay? So I've asked this question, so I'm going to just see what you are responding to, and then we'll get back here. Then we'll get back to this. So, okay, favorite things about working from home right now. No commute. Yes, we are saving money. Catching up on TV. Yes. Fresh cooked food. Lucky you. Scheduling freedom. Less hovering. My boss can stop by. Yes, exactly. Better food, focus, more innovative, peaceful. You can work out home, always on time. Although my cousin just messaged me this morning and said, how was I late for work when all I had to do was roll over? And I responded back, how were you late for work when all you had to do was roll over? But again, yes. So I never like to end things on bad notes. And so I want us to remember that as bad as things are, there are definitely some things that are happening that are some good things. We are going to be with each other at some point soon, hopefully. And then we'll be able to really value this in a different way. So what I'm going to do now, and then thank you for putting more things in here, Introvert's Paradise, that's funny, is I'm going to put the screen up for you to ask questions here. So you can start putting any questions that you have that you would like me to respond to now, but I'm going to get to my final point that I want to make, which is about, you have to remember through all of this, everything that I said, you are human beings. And sometimes we feel sad, and sometimes we feel glad, and sometimes we feel great, and sometimes we don't feel great, and we're mad, and we're angry, and we're frustrated about the state of the world. The 3 things on the screen, I want you to remember: you have to drink water, you have to get sun. So even if you're not going outside, let the sun come in, right? Exercise. If you are having a hard time sleeping, meditation. I love the Headspace app. For those of you who are New Yorkers, we have access to the Headspace app and some of the meditations for free. If you go to headspace.com/NY, you can utilize that. I also like the Calm app. You can go to YouTube and do free meditations. I'm actually writing an article, which I'll share with all of you, about self-care best practices. My family and we did board games the other day just to kind of get offline. And I want to remind you, you do not have to work 24/7 because you're home 24/7. You should stop working when you can. You should take lunch. Don't eat lunch the same place that you are working. Shift your perspective, move a little bit, walk in circles if you need to. But if you're staying in the same place for long amounts of time, it's not good for you. But it doesn't have the blood flow allowing to happen either, right? And so you need that blood to flow so that you can get energized, and you can get ideation, and you can feel better in times where we're prone to not feeling great. You want to make sure that you're doing that. Okay, I wanted to eat, exercise. A lot of folks are complaining, or noticing, I should say, not complaining, that they are eating a lot more. A friend of mine recommended a strategy that she used with her family I want to share with you, which is everyone every day gets a snack box. So there's a box full of the snacks that they're going to eat for the day. And then once those are done, no more snacks. And so if you're having a hard time portioning out and you're realizing you're doing too much, you might want to utilize that and to say, okay, these are the snacks that I'm allowing myself to have. And other than that, nothing else. So if that's helpful, please utilize that. And I'm going to go to see what questions that you might have. Okay. Oh, you're welcome. I'm single and home alone. How do I deal with isolation? Okay. So number one, you want to stay connected as much as you can with other people, right? And so this is phone calls, this is video calls as much as you can. Somebody asked earlier about, how do I stay connected with potential clients and all that stuff? Send a note, schedule a 10-minute phone call, make additional noise. So, some of the things about the isolation is you feel alone, right? But I downloaded a Scrabble app so that I could play with other people, right? As an extrovert, I need the energy of other people. Any opportunity I have to see other faces, I am utilizing them. Um, you know, this maybe it's another webinar topic, right? But a friend of mine is having a lot of good traction right now utilizing online dating because folks don't have the opportunity to meet, right? So they have to be better at talking on the phone and communicating. So this might be an opportunity for you to re-energize and engage that way. And again, whatever feels good for you, you should be trying to do. You know, any way for you to connect. I've seen folks say that they're doing online happy hours with friends. I know that MBBA is going to be doing one next week. We also have our membership meeting. Any kind of connection that you can have, you should be using. Do not isolate, other than the isolation we have to do. Don't disconnect, right? We can be isolated, but we don't have to be alone. And so, can reach out to people. Let's connect as much as we can. How to cope with enforced isolation. My friend is on Long Island and sick. This is one of the hardest parts about this, right? Is that we have folks who are suffering at this time, and we are unable to do something about the suffering. I had, 2 people who are in my extended family who passed away, and not being able to have the ritual of funerals and connecting with others in their grief has been really difficult. And I think that's a difficulty that we're all sort of experiencing. And so to the extent that you can, I was invited to do a Zoom memorial. I'm having a Zoom birthday party for my daughter today. That we got to try so that we're not disconnecting. And I know that it's hard, for people who are ill, all we can do is try our best to send our love and support as much as we can, sending care packages and groceries and, connecting otherwise, you should. I'll ask if there's we have 2 more minutes, if there's any additional questions that you all are thinking about at this time that I can help with. Please do share them right now. I'll see in my notes if there's anything else I wanted to share. I talked to you about snacks. I talked to you, remembering the security piece. If you're using Zoom or any of these other tools, we need to make sure that you have a password, particularly as attorneys, we are required to serve our clients in the best way that we can. That requires us to utilize and know how to use some of these things. So if you don't know how to use Zoom or some of these other tools, YouTube is my favorite university, but Zoom also has its own tutorials, as does WebEx, as does pretty much all of the tools that are out there. So educate yourself in order to best serve your clients. And that client might be a partner at your law firm or your actual client or a judge, et cetera. But don't let this time be one in which you're saying, because of this, I'm okay to be ignorant, because we still, as attorneys, have to maintain our licenses and the things that we have to do ethically and professionally in order to do so. I'll remind you in the last minute that tomorrow MBBA has a webinar on workplace stuff right now, having to do with the COVID-19, the CARE Act, and how people are responding to having their employees work from home. So if you haven't RSVP for that and you do need CLE credit, because we're providing New York-based CLE for that, then you can register on the MBBA's website. And on Friday, we have our membership meeting where we'll be asking on Zoom, so we can see each other's faces. We'll be asking what people need, what kind of support you might need, information, other trainings that you want. And I'll ask the same thing right now. Like, if there's anything that you think for me as someone who does professional development that you would like to hear about via webinar, I am looking for those ideas and would love your feedback. And again, we're at time. I want to just take the time to thank you for engaging and seeing my face. I can't see yours, but I'm hoping that you're smiling a little bit, at least now, having had the opportunity to engage with us. And if you're not a member of the MBBA, I encourage you to do so. You can visit our website at mbbanyc.org. And I wish you and your families health and wellness. And I can't wait till we have the opportunity to be in the same room with each other again. Thank you so much and have a great day.